For thousands of years, people have created places to remember the departed. Some cultures built massive stone tombs, others carved into mountains, while some covered entire hills with crosses, mausoleums, and quiet corridors. But there are some cemeteries that seem to be more than just ordinary burial places. They are not just places where the departed are laid to rest. They are like cities within cities, sacred forests, mountains filled with tombs, vast necropolises, or places where death is a part of daily life. Some are truly remarkable because of their size. Others are known for the legends that surround them. And there are also places that are surprising because they are awe-inspiring. They show a way of understanding death that is almost impossible for someone outside their culture to comprehend. In this video, let's discover the 10 most mysterious cemeteries in the world. These are places built to remember the departed, but as time passes, they have become more mysterious and unsettling. But before we start, let's give a shout out to those who continue to support and watch. You are our inspiration. That's why we keep making amazing content. And if you're new to our channel, make sure to subscribe so you'll always be updated with our latest videos. Highgate Cemetery, United Kingdom. On a hill in northern London, surrounded by old oak trees and pathways covered with creeping plants, lies one of the most unsettling cemeteries in the world. Highgate Cemetery was opened in 1839 as part of what was called the Magnificent Seven, a group of large necropolises built to reduce overcrowding in church cemeteries in London. Because of its Egyptian-style tombs, catacombs, and pathways lined with cedar trees, it became one of the most important places for people seeking a dignified final resting place. But as time passed, Highgate was neglected, and plants gradually took over the entire place. Some areas became home to foxes, and then the stories and rumors began. In the late 1960s, some residents claimed to have seen a dark figure with red eyes wandering among the tombstones. The newspapers called this creature the Highgate Vampire. On March 13, 1970, after a television program about the mystery, a large number of Londoners entered the cemetery carrying improvised crosses. Some graves appeared to have been desecrated, and a corpse was found with a stake driven into its chest. No one caught the so-called vampire, and to this day, no one has fully explained what really happened on those nights. Chacarita Cemetery, Argentina. In 1871, yellow fever ravaged Buenos Aires in just a few weeks. The city's system collapsed, and coffins began piling up in the streets. So the authorities were forced to take desperate measures. They built a new cemetery in a very short time on former Jesuit land in the western part of the city. To transport the bodies, they were arranged along approximately 6 kilometers of railway, and in just 2 days, almost 600 bodies were buried. At present, Chacarita Cemetery covers an area of 97 hectares. This is the largest cemetery. Underground, there are 9 underground galleries containing approximately 40,000 graves, a whole city hidden beneath another city. Right here in these galleries, during the last military dictatorship in Argentina, relatives of missing people noticed suspicious things during the burials. There were bodies buried without names, without records, and without any trace of who they were. Some were never found again. Their remains ended up in the communal ossuary, a place where the remains of the deceased are gathered together before they can be claimed or identified by their families. Okunoin Cemetery, Japan. At the top of Mount Koya, surrounded by ancient cedar trees and moss-covered tombstones, lies the largest cemetery in Japan. More than 200,000 graves are lined up along the nearly 2-kilometer path leading to the heart of Okunoin. But it's not the size or age of this place that truly makes it mysterious. It's the person waiting at the end of the path. There lies Kobo Daishi, the monk who founded Shingon Buddhism in Japan in the 9th century. According to the tradition preserved by his followers for more than 1,200 years, Kobo Daishi never really died. Instead, he is said to have entered into an eternal meditation in the year 835, and to this day is waiting for the arrival of the Buddha of the future. Twice a day, the monks bring him food in a solemn and silent procession, a tradition said to have remained unbroken for a very long time. In the year 929, the first monk who opened the mausoleum is said to have seen Kobodaishi, with long hair and a beard, and it seemed that his clothes had also changed. Since then, the door has never been opened for anyone again. In the Hall of Lamps, which guards his tomb, more than 10,000 lanterns continue to shine, and according to tradition, 2 of them have been shining continuously since the 10th century. Mount of Olives Cemetery, Israel. Across from the old city of Jerusalem, on the other side of the Kidron Valley, lies one of the most important slopes in the history of mankind. The cemetery on the Mount of Olives has been in use for about 3,000 years, dating back to the time of the First Temple. Currently, it is estimated that there are about 150,000 graves there. It is considered the oldest cemetery in the world that is still in use. But it's not just its age that makes it mysterious, but also what is expected to happen there. According to the prophecy in the book of Zechariah, when the Messiah comes, he will set his feet on this mountain. The land will be split in two, and those who have died and are buried on its slopes are said to be the first to rise. Because of this belief, this place has become one of the most sought-after burial sites for many centuries. There are even some families who pay up to $150,000 for a spot here, because according to their belief, everyone wants to be among the first to rise. Between 1948 and 1967, while the area was under Jordanian control, around 30,000 tombstones were destroyed. Some of these were used as paving stones for military camps and even for a hotel. However, the cemetery survived empires, wars, and the destruction that came with the passing of many centuries. Prophets, kings, and prime ministers are buried here. Toraja Cemeteries, Indonesia. In the mountainous region of Sulawesi, Indonesia, there is an area called Tanah Toraja, or the Land of the Toraja. Here, people have a different perspective on the boundary between life and death. For this community of about 1 million people, death is not considered a sudden event. Instead, it is a slow and lengthy process. When someone dies, their body remains inside their home. They embalm it and it stays with the family for several months or sometimes even years while the family saves enough money for a funeral ceremony. During that time, they talk to the deceased, feed them, and treat them as if they are only sick, not completely dead. But every August, they show one of their most surprising traditions. During the Manane ceremony, families open the tombs and bring out their deceased loved ones. They clean the remains, change their clothes, and sometimes even offer them cigarettes. Afterwards, they walk their deceased loved ones around their community. They usually walk in straight lines. After the ceremony, they are returned to their resting place and the tomb is closed again until the next time. Dargev's, Russia. In the Caucasus Mountains, after almost 3 hours of traveling on dazzling and dangerous roads, you will find a place that, at first glance, looks like an abandoned medieval village. There are about 90 small stone buildings with cone-shaped roofs scattered along the mountainside. But they have no doors. Instead, there are only small holes just big enough for a body to fit through. What looks like a village is actually a vast cemetery. During the times of plague epidemics that struck the region in the 15th and 16th centuries, the sick would voluntarily enter these crypts so as not to infect their families. They relied only on the small amount of food left outside their tombs. When they died, their bodies remained inside. Many of the remains are still there to this day, naturally dried and mummified because of the dry mountain air. And some were even found still wearing their clothes. But there's another detail that puzzles archaeologists even more. Several bodies were buried in boat-shaped coffins, and next to one of them, a paddle was found. What's unusual? There is no navigable river near Dargovs. It is believed that the ancient Ossetians may have thought of going to the afterlife as a journey across water, but no one is certain where they believed that journey was headed. Wadi al-Salam, Iraq. In Najaf, one of the holiest cities in Iraq, you can find Wadi al-Salam, which roughly means Valley of Peace. At first glance, it looks like an endless city made of stone, bricks, and dust. But every small building and every narrow pathway is part of one of the largest cemeteries in the world. This place is important because of the shrine of Imam Ali, a significant figure in Shia Islam. Because of this, for many centuries, thousands of families have wanted to bury their deceased here, hoping they can rest near this sacred place. A place considered sacred. The result is a vast necropolis where the graves stretch as far as the eye can see. It's hard to look at its aerial images without thinking that the city of the living and the city of the dead have merged into a single landscape. Chichicastenango Cemetery, Guatemala. In the mountains of Guatemala, the Kaiche people of Chichicastenango have one of the most unique perspectives on death. Their cemetery, which stands on a hill, is neither white nor gray. It is filled with turquoise, yellow, pink, and pale blue, and each color has its own meaning. White for fathers, turquoise for mothers, yellow for grandfathers, pink for girls, and pale blue for children. But it's not just the colorful graves that make this place different. What truly sets it apart are the ceremonies. The shamans perform prayers using fire, incense, and alcohol as a way to bring together and reconcile the living and the dead. Inside the cemetery, there are also altars made of metal mesh that are dedicated to the sun, moon, and stars. On the night before the Day of the Dead, some of the village youth sleep among the graves. They do this to show that they are not afraid of those who have passed away. Here, death is not only mourned, it is painted. Necropolis of Glasgow, United Kingdom. Opened in 1833 beside Glasgow Cathedral, the necropolis was designed with a unique feature that most visitors do not know about. The original plan included vast catacombs beneath the hill, which could only be accessed through a single passageway, an entrance that was easy to guard in order to protect the bodies against body snatchers, people who dug up graves and sold the bodies to medical schools. In 1832, the Anatomy Act made the use of bodies for medical research legal. Because of this, grave robbers gradually disappeared. But the most unusual story about this place began in 1954. The Glasgow police received a report about a disturbance inside the cemetery. When they arrived, they saw hundreds of children aged 4 to 14 wandering among the graves. They were carrying weapons, stakes, and axes that they made themselves. They even had dogs with them. They were looking for the so-called vampire of the Gorbals. They didn't find anything, but it reached the point where the children's fear became a big issue all the way to Parliament. And eventually, this resulted in a law that still prohibits the sale of certain horror comics to minors in the United Kingdom. Recoleta Cemetery, Argentina. In Buenos Aires, the Recoleta Cemetery was opened in 1822 and over time became the main cemetery for Argentina's elite families. Its pathways are surrounded by family mausoleums, sculptures, stained glass windows, and tombs that look like small private chapels. Here lie former presidents, writers, military figures, and some of the most influential families in the country. But one of the most well-known tombs here is that of Rufina Cambaceres, a 19-year-old woman who suddenly died in 1902, on the very day of her birthday. Since then, her story has been surrounded by disturbing legends. According to the tale, strange signs were seen after she was buried. Some say there were marks on her coffin, as if she woke up inside the mausoleum and tried to get out. There is no clear evidence proving that it really happened, but the story remains part of Recoleta Cemetery's legend. Her mother built a tomb for Rufina with a sculpture of her standing next to a door, her hand close to the doorknob. That image, as if she could come out of her own mausoleum at any moment, is the reason why her tomb became one of the most mysterious places in Recoleta Cemetery. In the end, these cemeteries show that people have different ways of understanding death. In some places, the cemetery becomes a city of mausoleums. In others, it is a sacred forest, a mountain full of graves, a colorful hill, or a village built for the departed. Each one has its own way of remembering, fearing, or caring for those who are no longer in this world. And maybe that's the reason why these places seem so mysterious, because they don't just show the end of life. They also show how each culture tries to understand and give meaning to death. Some are remarkable because of their size, others because of their legends. There are also those that are fascinating because of their rituals, history, or the strange feeling that time seems to have stopped between the graves. Do you know of any other mysterious cemeteries? Which cemetery do you think should be included in this list? Comment below. And if you want to see more unique and extraordinary places in the world, subscribe to Noel Polo TV.